protest or the parking protest. Whichever one you're here for, thank you. Rest assured, the Conservative group on Waltham Forest Council is opposing both the closure of the Markhouse Centre and the changes to the parking regime because they're both wrong. So first and foremost, thank you for coming and showing your support for what we try and do to prevent our Labour administration damaging our borough and damaging the people who rely on things like the Markhouse Centre and being able to park their cars, go shopping, visit caring clients and others. What is going to happen this evening is we're all going to troop in there and sit down for our pre-meeting, and then the council meeting starts at 7:30. You can go and sit in the gallery upstairs and watch the proceedings, and you can heckle if you want to. The mayor might try and shut you up, but don't listen to her, she's not like sorry, I shouldn't say that, she's a very important person. But what we are trying to do is to just show the councillors that there is significant opposition to what is being proposed, because ultimately there are 13 of us Conservative councillors and there are however many of them. So they will decide. It is up to them. It's up to them to decide whether they let Clyde Lokes, and it is Clyde Lokes, get away with this and do potentially quite serious damage.
So
just to remind you.
Do you support a needs budget?
Sorry?
Do you support the council setting a needs budget? Because I'm here for Markhouse Road, right?
Yeah.
And I've been here for Wood Street Library, I've been here for all the parks.
Yeah, we oppose the closure of Wood Street Library. Yeah.
But your government implemented £100 million worth of cuts and I lost my job. So what I'm asking you is tonight, will the Tories put forward a needs budget to use the reserves so there isn't an increase in rents, in parking facilities, and it stops the closures? Because you shouldn't use this movement opportunistically.
Forward every year that I've been a councillor since 2012, and the Labour lot have always voted them down.
Yeah, but your government implemented the cuts.
Our government, the Conservative government, increased the spending power of councils every year they were in power.
You can take a podium and people can listen to you over parking, but unless
That's
your
fine.
administration supports a needs budget...
You don't have one.
What? You don't
have a Labour council, Labour mayor and a
you know
Labour
as well as
government.
I
Where's the money?
do, you know as well as I do that your
This
government
council-
is responsible for taking millions away.
This council,
So don't opportunistically use the movement.
this council increased its budget every year by more than inflation every year for the past 15 years. It did that with the support of the Conservative government. It's doing it with the support of the Labour government.
Shrunk then?
And
the amount
of sorry, madam, I'm going to.
You voted for them cuts.
Thank you.
You both voted for those to accept that budget cut.
No,
Didn't you? Okay. So what are you doing here?
Right, we are here because we
So
think
you're
the
gonna put forward an
proposal.
alternative, like Nancy said, use prudential borrowing powers and reserves to stop the parking charges.
We may do that in February at the budget meeting. This is a slightly different meeting when we're trying to get the Labour councillors to rally round and challenge their own portfolio holder who wants to damage the high streets of our borough, who wants to make people pay to pray on a Sunday or a Friday.
Totally
And that is
unfair.
why we're here.
Totally unfair.
Because we are the voice of the opposition to the Labour administration. We can't change the budget because they vote for their budget. And if you want to change that, you've got to stop voting for them. If you're not in Chingford or Hymes Park, you need to vote for somebody else. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Socialists.
And I'm going to invite you to come inside. Because it's wet and miserable out here, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so my name is Nancy Taff and I am Assistant Secretary of the local Trades Council, which is an umbrella organisation for trade unions in the area. It has a reach of about 10,000 people, trade unionists. It's kind of an overarching umbrella organisation. I'm also a Socialist Party member and I've stood as a candidate in various elections for the Trade Unionists and Socialist Coalition. So I think that I'm a consistent campaigner against all cuts, all privatisation, hikes in rents, hikes in parking fees, all the things that have denigrated public life. I've got like a over 20-year record in this area, and I'm here tonight to try and stop the closure of the Markhouse Centre, which is a centre for adults with learning disabilities. Well, tonight there's the decision, there's the full council they're going to discuss the Markhouse Centre, and I was here on Tuesday night when the scrutiny committee, held the overview scrutiny committee discussed the Markhouse Centre. And just for anybody watching, what's happened is that councils have set up private companies in order to make money, and they've put councillors on the board of these companies. And there's one company called Norse Evolve, and this company is like a building surveyor company, and I think it's the one of the directors of housing sits on the board of this company. Now, this company that did the assessment of Markhouse Road, they basically, we argued that there's a conflict of interest. If you have a councillor on the board of a company that's condemning a property, then there's a conflict of interest. So Tuesday at the scrutiny committee there was a questioning of this, and for that reason the closure of the Markhouse Centre looks like it's going to be delayed while they engage the services of another company to ratify the original report. It's a bit convoluted, but it's a consequence of councillors not fighting the cuts over years. Central government have basically bailed out the bankers and the rich and the elite, and year after year they've passed devastating cuts onto communities like this. I was just saying to you, there's virtually no youth services in this area. There's terrible problem with youth violence. The libraries have closed. I used to work at Wood Street Library. The libraries have closed. And that came down from central government. And the Tory councillor stood up here tonight and said he was with these people. And he might be with these people, but I think it's opportunist, because why wasn't he calling his own government out when they were passing cuts down to local government? We were, but he wasn't. So is he just politically riding a wave because it could benefit him politically? Or does he genuinely believe in no cuts? And if he genuinely believes in no cuts, then what we're saying is that we need to mobilise the local campaign. We have a local Labour administration now. We have a Labour government. The Labour government was elected to end austerity. Well, if that's what their remit is, austerity ends. Disabled centres don't close, parking charges don't go up, rents don't go up, and we all unite together to say enough, enough. We're just asking for honesty, and he wasn't being totally honest, in my opinion. Well, I think, you see, the Markhouse Centre is the first cut from a Labour administration under a Labour government. So it's gathered a certain amount of momentum in terms of people becoming publicly aware. So they're sensitive about that. So the decision has been delayed to February. We hope to generalise the campaign and stop it from being closed. But as people here tonight have experienced, like the parking charges are going up. We hear that there's going to be cuts to council tax relief for poor people in January, so there could be more people here. I personally think that the working class needs a new political party. I think we cannot sacrifice the anger to the right-wing element in reform. The Reform Party now is ahead of Labour in places like Wales, right-wing racists who are getting support on the back of despair over austerity. So what the councillors do in terms of cuts is really important for community cohesion, for people feeling united together, that they've got services. So I think a new political party needs to be set up by the trade unions, which fights austerity, gets elected, votes against austerity, is genuine. That's why I said to Emma Best here tonight, she's a Tory councillor and a GLA representative, I said, you're a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite because you're a Tory talking about being opposed to a cuts. But for the last 14 years, you've been part of a party that has shrunk the welfare state. The working class in this country are completely abandoned. If you're sick, if you're old, if you're disabled, if you don't have a lot of money, there's no support. And her party's responsible for that. The Labour administration here are spineless, and the Labour government are spineless, because they should be doing what our forefathers and mothers did and stand up to the rich and the elite and say, you pay your taxes, we're going to nationalise energy. We had a voice like that in the past. We don't have that. And that's the task. That's why we're going to be here continuously.